Hi, I'm Pat Fiume. I've been a realtor for over 30 years. I'm a host of the American Dream Show. Welcome to my show, Is This for Real Estate? Welcome back. I'm here with Jay Amwake from Greentree Mortgage. Thank you for being with us today.
Thank you for having me, Pat. It's my pleasure.
So what can you tell us to help our buyers and our viewers about what exactly happens in the mortgage process? Like somebody decides they want to buy a house, what's the first thing they should do?
Okay. So basically a little bit about myself and my team.
Okay.
There's two of us that originate, me and my business partner. And then we have a full-time, kind of like a processor assistant named Michelle. And then we have our own personal processor, Nancy. So what happens is a realtor will refer a buyer to me. I will then take the first initial phone call. It takes 15 to 20 minutes, no pertinent information needed. Just basic stuff, who you are, what do you do for a living. We talk about income, we talk about assets, gather enough info to pull a credit report. Once I conclude my call, then I'll email the person for income documents. You really can't ask for the income documents until you have the conversation with the buyer, because you could be self-employed, you're gonna need 1120S's with K1s, or you W-2'd, and all those fun questions. So then I'll email the client for the paperwork. Paperwork then comes in. Our assistant Michelle then takes the paperwork. She organizes everything, puts everything into the file, but most importantly, she starts to investigate. Buyers tend to omit things every now and then.
Absolutely.
So when I say that Michelle investigates, Michelle goes through pay stubs. She looks for things like child support and liens and levies. And when we get bank statements, we look for the good old large deposits and stuff like that. So it's really great because she can find things and then alert me, hey, everything's in the system. I noticed this on the pay stub. There's a deduction for this, blah, blah, blah. So then once we gather that stuff, I'll go through the income docs. I'll calculate the income. I'll come up with the monthly income that's acceptable. What we do a little bit different, if I have any shadow of a doubt or a little bit of question of a doubt, I'm always going to send the file to my underwriter. And this is even before I issue the pre-approval, because I never want to put a piece of paper out there that I can't stand behind. So I'm going to send that file to my underwriter. I'm going to have my underwriter take a peek and say, hey, this borrower has been working for this long at this job. Is this income usable? Yada, 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 just to make sure that's good to go. Then once we get everything worked up, we get the pre-approval together, I will then make the second call back to the client. I will discuss with the client, this is your pre-approval. We come up with a hypothetical home. I may say to you, Pat, you're pre-approved for $450,000, taxes no higher than $12,000, homeowners insurance no higher than $1,500 a year. But I encourage people, once they issue that pre-approval, to contact me, run some payments with me, get the feel.
Run the numbers,
So once the pre-approval's out, they'll go out and they'll start with their realtor home searching. We'll then get the agreement of sale. Michelle will then get her hands on the agreement of sale. She will open everything up, get the loan ready. I will then call the borrower up, go through the payments, lock the interest rate. We will then send the loan out electronically. They will sign everything. Once it comes back, then the entire file gets handed off to Nancy, who is our processor. Nancy only works for me and my partner, Rich. So she's not working for anybody else at Greentree. She's going to know your file front to back. Nancy will be your personal processor. My team physically, they actually answer the phone and they actually talk to borrowers.
They actually talk to people,
Yeah, she might actually shoot an email to you and say, hey, why don't you just call me so I can explain, because it makes things a little bit easier.
Makes it a lot easier,
So you get the whole team throughout the entire transaction, and I do attend all my settlements. I have one today at 4 o'clock, so I go in person, go over the mortgage docs, sign everything face to face.
And that's good, especially for new agents that don't know how to explain mortgage docs, or even some of the people who have been doing it for a long time that don't know how to do it.
I always joke and say, stay in your lane. I won't describe real estate, and, don't describe the mortgages.
Exactly, I really don't feel comfortable. I mean, I know how to do it, but, there's things in there that you would know that I wouldn't know just by looking at it.
Absolutely. And I never try and overstep my bounds. I have some real estate history in my past, but I'm always going to say, call Pat. Pat's the expert with that, not me. You can't answer me that question. They're going to keep poking at me to try and get the answer, but I'm always going to say, let's put it back on Pat and see what she says. Absolutely.
It's like I have people ask me to tell them what the payment's going to be approximately. I say, call the loan officer. I'm not even answering that,
It's tough because the rates are a challenge right now. The economy's a challenge, inflation's a challenge, and people just need to feel that they're getting the best situation possible with the best pricing possible, and we try and do that the best that we can.
Is there any products you have right now that are different than the norm right now that to kind of help buyers get a house?
So we have the standard grant programs. We have the FHA $10,000 home buyer grant. We have the conventional $10,000 home buyer grant. USDA, which is no money down for eligible areas. VA, which is no money down, obviously. Standard FHA 3.5%. Conventional as low as 3%. We do some bank statement loans. We do.
Do you have no docs and no income?
We do some of them,
no
what I call
asset?
carnival loans. Yes, we do some bank statement loans. We do that FHA 100% financing stuff.
Wow.
A lot of those products, we do the 2-1 buy down program, but a lot of those products are like loss leaders. They get the phones to ring. Once people see what are
What the
entailed in
terms and
those.
conditions are, yeah.
If I write 100 loans in the next 6 months, 90 of them are going to be FHA and conventional.
Right.
You know, there's
Right.
only going to be a handful of those. You're going to see a ton on social media. Come to us, we have this.
Right, exactly.
I'd love to see how many people are actually writing those loans.
Yeah, it
but
just gets the phone to ring.
at the end of the day, the good old standard FHA, conventional, the VA, they're your bread and butter products. And I try and treat people, I always joke around and say, I want to put you in a loan that your mom and dad would be happy that you're in that loan.
Right. Or I would put my own kid in or myself in, you know. I try to treat people the way I want to be treated.
Yeah, and
Yeah,
I live
and
off
I-
referrals. I live off
Absolutely.
referrals. I live off the same way you do. I
Right.
try and do a really, really good job and
Right.
make sure they don't forget me, and hopefully I
Yeah.
get a call back.
Is there any other features you have, like any special kind of lock? Like how long is your lock? Is there any kind of float down options or things like that?
So the standard locks with pricing are, 30, 45, 60 days. We can lock out a lot longer than that. Obviously, the investor's going to charge you a little bit more for
Right.
that lock. We do have a one-time flow down because the rates are very sensitive right now. So I just had a borrower 2 weeks ago who locked her loan at 6 5/8 with a point, which is kind of like the standard pricing rate nowadays for good
Right.
credit. And the 10-year dropped, the rates went down, and we actually went back to the investor and said to the investor, hey, rates went down, we want to lower her rate.
Right.
And with a simple email to the investor, it went from 6 5/8 to 6 3/8. So I was able
Right,
to
it's a
drop
big
her a
difference.
quarter.
Yeah.
And I tell people I can do this one time, so make sure it's the right time and follow our lead.
Right.
You got to watch it sometimes because you end up getting a message every 3 hours. Can I get it lower? Can I get it lower? Can I get it lower?
Right.
And
You
it's,
gotta
you got
tell
to wait
them.
for that optimal moment. So,
Yeah.
but yes, we do have that one flow down. What makes Greentree a little, I think, different than everybody else is we're probably the predominant lender in South Jersey. Everybody knows who we are.
Right.
I hear all the time that we got our offer accepted because Greentree was on the pre-approval.
It always helps to have a loan officer
Correct.
that you know who they are and they're local.
And
Especially with the North Jersey or the internet people, it's a red flag right away.
I have realtors that are flat out. A borrower called me last week and said, hey, I spoke with so-and-so. He told me he won't deal with online lenders, and I want to look at one of his properties. And the only way he'll show me his listing is if I talk to you.
Wow.
I
Yeah.
now have her loan in my pipeline, and she is the girl, honest to God, that I just dropped her rate 0.25%. So
That's
she
great.
really likes
Yeah.
me, but the realtor flat out said, I don't deal with online banks. 'Cause
And
you know they
I've even seen that in remarks on some of the agents, which they really shouldn't do, but it does say stuff like that. You know?
It's hard because your reputation is everything.
Absolutely.
And you want that repeat business. I don't want to buy web leads. I don't want to chase and cold call. I don't want to do
Right.
that stuff.
And the other thing is, bad people talk about bad experiences more than they talk about good.
I would agree with that statement.
So, you have to be very careful. You get somebody who's really unhappy, they'll talk.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And I
So-
think we're a little different because we have, excuse me, we have those features. But Greentree, the owner of the company, I can get on the phone 7 days,
And
7
that's
nights.
huge.
He's in the office every day,
Right.
so I can call the owner of our company every day and say, "Hey, I need to help pricing something out. I got to get a 120-day lock on this. What's the best we
Mm-hmm. Right.
can do?" And he's always there and he's always accessible. So I think that puts us
That's
a
huge.
little bit above and in front of the competition.
And that's huge. So, do you have any funny stories or anything to share that you tell, like at a cocktail party, or?
I got a ton. A lot of the stories that we have in this business, a lot of them aren't funny.
Yeah, I know,
They're
yeah.
trying and they wear you out.
Oh yeah.
If somebody would ask me what's one of your top 3 craziest stories, I would tell you when I got into mortgages in the mid-90s, I was doing a purchase for a gentleman that was referred to me, and I put the purchase together, and midway through the transaction, my manager had pulled me into the office, and a local Cherry Hill lender here, and said to me, "This one's not going to close." And I said, "Why?" "Well, we really can't talk about it, but it's not going to close." What had ended up happening is the borrower had a brother who was killed as a merchant marine when he was 15 years old.
Oh my God.
They were twins. That gentleman kept his brother's identity alive
Oh my
for
God.
years and years and years, and he owned multiple properties in multiple states in his identity along with the deceased brother's identity. Some title company caught it some way, somehow, that there
Oh
was
my
a deceased.
gosh.
I don't know what happened. I was just brought into the office and was told, "This one's not going to go," and you really didn't ask questions, and I was told a couple days later what had happened, that it was a fake identity, twin brother, he had
Yeah.
dual driver's licenses, but back
Wow.
then, they didn't decease him properly.
Not like
so it kept
today, in
going. So
'90s, that could probably happen.
our friends at Federation Title would find that in 5 minutes.
Yeah,
Absolutely. But
absolutely,
back
they
then, it was a
would.
little bit different. Back
Yeah.
then, it was a little different with the paperwork, and we didn't have all the internet, and we were still
Oh, yeah.
working with the files with those big metal
Yeah.
ears and the two holes and
Oh,
folding
yeah.
them over.
Hole puncher.
So,
and-
but The Man with Two Identities is probably one of my classics.
Wow, that's a little scary, but it happens all the time.
Absolutely.
I had a guy who was AKA, he had all these aliases one time, and he was a little strange too. But I was like, which is the right name? He goes, "This is the one I use for my marriage. This is for business." I'm like, okay. But yeah, you get people that do things like that.
Yes,
All right.
absolutely.
Well, thank you for being with
Thank
us
you for
today. I
having
really
me. It's a
appreciate
lot of
you
fun.
stopping by.
A lot of fun.
All
Thank
right,
you.
Well, thank you.